Hey friends, welcome back to the live stream. If you're here live, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. And if you are catching this on the replay, don't forget to hit us up with a hashtag replay so I can show some love to my replay crew. Today, we're going to be doing some medical coding, just Q&A. We're going to be checking in. We're going to be talking about careers. I'm going to tell you about what I got planned, all of the things happening. I actually canceled some plans recently, moving some things around a lot too. But yeah, we're going to talk about kind of what you guys are up to. If you're studying for the CPC, thinking about your next certification, just looking into getting into medical billing and coding, trying to break into that first coding job market right now, it's a little funny. I have some stuff coming up on that though. Some funny, because everyone's so worried about AI and medical coding, and I got some stuff to say about that. Not today, but in a video that I just recorded. But yeah, so we're going to talk about like what should you be focusing on in your studies? How do you get into medical coding? What certifications employers are looking for? Some of the barriers that people face when they're studying medical coding. Because if you started at the beginning of the year, you're probably starting to get into CPT now, and that's a lot of stuff to handle. That is a lot of stuff to handle. But yeah, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A throughout, so feel free to drop your comments and questions into the chat as we go. And without further ado, we're going to get started into today's live stream. Hello, everyone. Good morning. We are streaming from my office today. I apologize. It's a little bit of a mess here. You can't see this. It is actually filled with glitter because I have been doing some crafting. And my crafts, unfortunately, had a lot of glitter that just dandruffed all over my floor. So my floors are covered now in very sparkly green glitter, like very fine glitter too, like the fine kind of glitter that they're going to pull up the floorboards of this house at some point, and they're still going to find that glitter laying underneath there. Any case, yeah, I'm excited to be here today. We are T-minus like 2 months to HealthCon, and I'm making all my plans. If you're going to be there at HealthCon 2026 in Dallas, feel free to hit me up. I'm going to be there making all kinds of content. We're going to be talking about all the things there. I'm not speaking this year, at least not at Dallas. The jury is out on if I will be at Seattle. That is a long haul of a flight for me. And I'm not good with big flights. In fact, I'm supposed to have a venous ablation. It was supposed to be May. Now it's moved to June. So I might even have to check. I think I should be good by then. I'm only supposed to wait 2 weeks after flying for each leg. But yeah, it's exciting stuff coming up. I've been working on some projects. I've been working on affiliates. And we're bringing in everyone today. We've got Instagram here. We've got YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and we've got the TikTok crew coming in, joining us live. Let's check in on our TikTok crew. It says, Jenny says, I am a CCS and CPCA, St. Louis, Missouri. Couldn't have passed either without your video. So excited and great to have you here, Jenny. I've been trying to get more content out. I wish I could get some CCS content out maybe one day, but it's just, I am so booked already with everything. It's crazy. Crazy. We have a question coming in from YouTube from Blarnold saying, how do I find the video for what part I am actually studying? That is a great question. So let me take you guys over to the main YouTube channel. And I apologize, TikTok friends, you're not going to be able to kind of follow along too much because I still haven't figured out that screen share thing to pull TikTok in through the rest of the streaming platforms. Let's take a look at the channel. And I can kind of show you where we can find some things. So let's share my second monitor here. There we go. So if we go to the main channel page and we start looking for videos, there's a lot there, right? I know it's overwhelming. A lot of people ask me, they're like, there's so many videos, where do I start? I mean, it kind of depends on where you are in your journey. But if you're someone who's already involved in a medical coding program and you're like, how do I follow along? I would say start here in the playlist that is the medical coding CPC review, and watch the accompanying video for which chapter you're currently studying. So if you're over learning HCPCS, here's my HCPCS video. This is, for example, respiratory. And I would just start with the coordinating videos there. They're a very great supplement to watch after you've kind of read through your chapter or gone through your studies for that particular chapter in your medical coding studies. I will say I did have someone recently go through these. So even though some of these are from 2021, a lot of the concepts are exactly the same. That we haven't changed really much as far as guidelines. There might be some code changes. I think there was like one video where there was like an outdated question or something. So I just snipped that section out of it. I think since some of them are from 2021, maybe in the next year or two, I might do updated videos, only because, technology has changed and my ability to present this has changed a little bit. So that might be happening. But yeah, I would say start there. I have playlists for all kinds of stuff. I have stuff for, chapter reviews. If you're looking for a medical coding job, case studies, evaluation and management, coding guidelines, these I need to update. Those are from 2020. I don't know. I have so many ideas of things to do, and I wish I could clone myself and get them all done. And yeah, if you're just starting out in your medical coding journey and you just want to know like what is the beginner information, I have videos for that as well. That's my playlist that's called Want to Become a Medical Coder, Start Here. If you want to get started in a program though, and you want my recommendation, today's live stream is actually sponsored by Preppy. That's the program that I collaborate with, and they handle all of my viewers. They get them into the great program that they have. They give them career support. They give them training. They give them all their tools that they need as far as ebooks for learning and for studying medical coding. If you would like to find out more about them, the program that I recommend is called Preppy. If you pay in full, because they have payment plan options and they have pay in full options. If you do the pay in full, I can actually save you $100 with my code Contempo at preppy.org. And again, that only applies to the pay in full enrollments at preppy.org. This comment says, hello, everyone. I'm preparing to take my test. Right now, I am taking practice tests. I want to say something about the practice test because a lot of people will freak out about this. So if you get the official practice exams from the AEPC, they have like different bundles. Some of those 50 question packages or practice exams, whatever you want to refer to them as, do have fill in the blank questions. So some people see that and they freak out and they're like, oh my God, is the CPC exam going to have fill in the blank questions? At this time, the CPC exam does not have fill in the blank questions. That might change later on at some point. They have not announced anything yet. I don't foresee it happening this year because I feel like they would have probably said that way ahead of time because they don't want to freak everyone out and be like, hey, like next week or next month they're going to do it. So they would, if they decided to do that, they would announce it in advance. Right now, I believe the only exam that has fill in the blanks is the CIC, Certified Inpatient Coder. Although I think there is another one in the works that might have fill in the blanks. Question from Amber Montoya on TikTok says, oh wait, is that the one I wanted to? Do they offer an internship? And that's referring to Preppy. So Preppy does offer a lot of great career support. They will offer options possibly of an internship, or you can just get, hey, we want resume support. We want someone to help us with our interviews and give us the support more so in that way, in job placement and support with that. The internships are an option. Not everyone wants to do those because internships and externships are unpaid. Not everyone has the capability to take an unpaid position, especially for the amount of time that people would want you in order to give you that experience. When we're setting up for someone to come into a healthcare sphere in almost any capacity where you are handling medical records and sensitive patient data, there's a lot of uh, things that they have to jump through, a lot of loops they have to jump through in order to make that happen, paperwork that has to be signed. There's sometimes background checks. So most organizations don't have the capacity to just let someone come in for an internship or to shadow for a day or to only be there for a short period of time. They're like, if they want that support and they're willing to take on externs, it's usually for several hours, 160 hours or so of an externship. So not everyone has that capability to do that. So in the instances where maybe you can't take in on an externship, Preppy will offer alternative career support to you in the form of things like resumes and career coaching. Spring Spurlock says, hello from Kentucky. Do you know of any training geared towards going from HCC coding to complete coding? Most training is geared for taking tests, not real job scenarios. So if you're talking about when you say complete coding, it really depends because we're talking about HCC coding and you're saying complete coding. And by complete coding, I don't know if that means inpatient coding, if that means professional fee coding, outpatient coding, or are you referring to all of those capacities, like a program that would train you in risk adjustment, inpatient coding, outpatient coding, profi coding, all of which have different kind of uniquenesses to them, different sometimes guideline sets to them. That I'm not sure about as far as training for like real job scenarios. I know there are advanced credentials and there's some more in the works right now, but I'm not aware of training for that other than I know the AAPC does have Practicode specialty modules. So say, for example, you get into general surgery or you want to get into general surgery and you want to do some advanced practice in that arena, they do have Practicode modules that you can practice with that are specialty geared that you can purchase. Excuse me 1 second. My nose is very itchy. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Princess Ally Mom says, I'm working on my resume and trying to get entry level with CPCA. How do I navigate with the AI auto rejections that I keep getting? So I would say if you are looking for an entry level position and you're dealing with a lot of AI auto rejections, it might be a good idea to take another look at your resume because there might be something on there that is automatically triggering the AI to get out. And it might just be the fact that you're a CPCA. It might be a word exclusion there, but I would also say just connect with your local chapters. Go into your AAPC account, find out your local chapter, and sign up for some of their events. Get some feedback from some of the coders and officers there as well. No, Pentar says, apply for everything. I don't know that I would say that to apply for everything. That's going to be a huge amount of time to take to apply for everything, especially considering not all medical coding jobs are the same type of coding that you might have for your certification. So let's say you're a CPCA and you just search medical coding jobs, you might get inpatient coding positions in there. And if they're looking for someone who knows DRGs and ICD-10 PCS, and you only have your CPC and you weren't trained in DRGs and ICD-10 PCS, it's kind of a waste of time to apply for those jobs because you don't have that skill set. And I'm not saying that you can't get that or learn that, but if you're not trained in ICD-10 PCS, it's not something you can easily learn, and it's probably not something they're going to want to train you for on the job. So it is a skill set that you can obtain, but you have to make sure that you are applying for the types of jobs that match the skill sets and match the certifications that you have. Not saying that you shouldn't apply for something that maybe says that they need 2 years experience and you don't quite yet have 2 years experience, but I am saying make sure that it is matching with the skill sets and the certifications that you have. Question from TikTok says, I have all my 2025s marked up. Should I put in there all the 2026 updates for the exam? That's kind of a depends on what time investment you want to do with that. So, you can find listings if you have like an encoder or something that has all of the code updates. Sometimes you can find webinars that have been hosted by local chapters. So if you have access to all of the code updates, or you have 2026 books and you want to go through that appendices where they have like if your editions of the book have them, an appendices where they have all the code updates and you want to write those in so that you don't lose all those notes, that is an option. You can still use your 2025 books throughout the end of 2026. Val asks, are there very long case study scenarios on the exam? So let's actually take a look at what it says on the AAPC website, because I think it's always good to kind of refer back to them. So when we have questions about things like this, about like what's on the certification exams, what you want to do is you want to go to the AAPC website and go to view all certifications. So in this case, I'm assuming you're talking about the CPC exam. So we'll go to CPC. And what we want to do when we want to find out the breakdown of almost all of the certification exams, like the CPC, we want to go to this button that says take the exam. At take the exam, at the very bottom, it gives the breakdown of the 100 questions. And it talks about how they have so many that are medterm and anatomy and which categories of CPT are included. And then it does say down here that there are cases. So each case will test you on the ability to accurately code medical record documentation using CPT, ICD-10, CM, and HCPCS level 2 codes. Cases do tend to be longer. They are at the end of the exam, and they are usually a whole note. Usually it's an operative report or an office note or an inpatient note or a nursing facility note of some kind. So it is a longer one that you do have to read through. There is strategy to this. I think especially this is something where our process of elimination can come into play, where instead of reading through the whole note and trying to piece together, like, what am I supposed to pay attention to here? We go and look at the answers and we see like, okay, what code ranges am I going to start looking at? What do I have to look for certain modifiers? Maybe one of the options has a 22 modifier. And that way you go, okay, let me, as I'm reading through this, check to see if there's something that was an unusual circumstance, that this was extended, or there was a severe lysis of adhesions that had to be done, or it took an exorbitant amount of time above what was normal for this type of surgery. And then we can start piecing together, like, what are the puzzle pieces I need to start keeping an eye out for as I'm scanning through this note. You can also skip things and come back to them. Part of the exam does have a flagging feature. So if you want to flag those and skip them and come back, that is an option. I always tell people, though, be very, very careful when you're flagging questions or coming back to them or getting towards the end of the exam, because in the bottom right-hand corner is your next question button. And if you're just not even thinking about it and hitting that next question button, at the end, at the very last question, the button there says submit exam. So that same spot switches over to say submit exam. And if you submit that exam and send it all through, that's it. You can't get back into your exam. You can't go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Like I actually needed to go back and check my flagged questions. Like, that's it. Your exam is done. So just be very careful if you're flagging questions to come back to them, that you don't accidentally hit that submit your entire exam button and then can't get back into them. Do you recommend the training on this AAPC website? Yeah, the AAPC's training is fine. I mean, especially because they render the exam. They're the only ones that can issue the CPC exam. It's their exam and their credential. So a lot of the things they focus on are more geared towards, like, this is for you to pass the exam. They have different tiers right now where it's, hey, if you want all of the bells and whistles and career readiness programs and stuff, there are higher tier, more expensive programs that you can purchase for them if you want books and everything all included. So they do have wonderful training. It's not suited for everyone. Everyone has different learning structures. I personally am not the biggest fan of the AEPC's way that they have like their learning management system set up, because I am someone who likes to sit down and listen to a lecture for 20, 30 minutes and then maybe do some practice cases. And that's kind of not the way the AEPC is set up. It's set up more in the kind of old school traditional thing where it's like, click on this button to learn more, click on this button to learn more, match this to this. And it's just like, it's too much for me. I'm more like the give me a 20 to 30-minute lecture and then like practice with some stuff. So their program's great. Not for everyone. And then there's lots of other programs out there. There are people who, because they are married to a military member or have a family member that's a military member, that they might get certain programs through them or discounted programs. Some places, college and technical schools, they might be able to get grants in your area in order to help fund for that. There are online programs through all kinds of independent instructors. I like CCO.us. Some people like Danita over at Integrity Coding. There's Coding Clarified. There's all kinds of different programs out there that are good. Morgan says, I've heard mixed reviews on Code Health. What do you think about working for Code is like? They're very selective because a lot of the things that they have as far as contract work is you need to hit the ground running. So most of the positions that they're going to take are 2 years plus, and it is contract work, and you have to keep that in mind. It is not a full-time, you're going to absolutely get 40 hours a week, you're being paid hourly jobs. Some of them are per chart. Some of them, they might take 2 months to get you in to start even working on the projects. But yeah, they do have kind of like a more Uber style way for medical coding. Excuse me. Laura Kelly asks, I'm wondering if an associate's degree in healthcare management is an asset for medical coders. It is definitely a good idea. It is not required. If you're just looking for a job in medical coding, the employers really want to see that you have your CPC or your CCSP or CCS, one of those certifications from either AAPC or a HEMA. When I think an associate's degree comes into play is if you're potentially looking to get into higher roles. Maybe you want to get into management eventually. Maybe you want to become a senior coder. Maybe you want to be a team lead. Maybe you want to get into a higher compliance role. Maybe eventually even get into consulting or something. That's when I think it's a good idea, especially if you are already working in a healthcare organization. I think a great career path would be, for example, you go get online training from somewhere like Preppy or AAPC or Integrity Code, whoever, get your CPC. Find some kind of job within the revenue cycle somewhere. A lot of these organizations, once you are in, they have to prefer an internal candidate versus an external candidate. So even if you're working doing prior authorizations where you're touching medical codes and kind of working them and getting some experience, a lot of places I've seen will let you transfer in a matter of months. So even if they have external candidates, those external candidates would have to have something way above and beyond what an internal candidate would in order for them to get that job versus you. And once we're inside, like they know you're already starting to get familiar with the electronic medical record and all the different providers. And a lot of these places, especially these big healthcare organizations, have tuition reimbursement. So if at that point you're like, hey, you know what? I think I want to go back and maybe get an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, you might at that point get it cheaper because your employer might have partial reimbursement for that through their tuition and reimbursement programs. Have you heard much about Career Step in regards to their medical coding program? I know of them and I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I've heard some people say I went through Career Step and never had a single problem. It was fine. I've heard other people say that they didn't like Career Step. So it's one of those programs that kind of sounds like maybe it's what you put into it. Maybe some people are more willing to go out and find external resources and search on websites and do additional studies, and maybe some people aren't. I feel like that way for a lot of the more foundational programs that we have, like the Ed2Go program. Some people say it's kind of lackluster. But if you're someone who's like, you know what, I can go on the websites and look up additional information and buy myself some supplemental books and stuff. Hey, Victoria, why is the CPC renewal fee so much this year? It goes up just about every year. I mean, back when I started, it was probably 100 and change. And I think it goes up a few dollars every year. Cost of everything goes up, but you get a lot for your AAPC membership. So people will go, well, why should I pay for AAPC when I can just join a HEMA and not have to pay those membership dues? Well, you get a lot more as an AAPC member than you do as an HEMA member. And AHEMA has been making it more difficult, I think, to get CEUs. So as an AAPC member, there's lots of benefits you get. You get access to your local chapter, which can help you network and get all kinds of educational activities and support. You get Healthcare Business Monthly magazine. So if you go on the AAPC website and you go to resources, I'm sorry, it's not Healthcare Business Monthly anymore. It's AAPC the magazine. Resources, AAPC the magazine. You get that every month, and you can earn CEUs from completing the quizzes that are on there. You also get 4 free webinars for CEUs every year as an AAPC member. So you can find that when you go to, I believe, training and events and then search for CEUs. You can find that there. You get discounts there's an AAPC Savings Center where you can get discounts on food and tickets and hotels. So you get a lot as a member. So here under training and events, search for CEUs, low cost CEUs. You can find the members only webinars. You do have to be logged into your AAPC account in order to access those. But yeah, I think you get a lot as an AAPC member. Even discounts on books and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's worthwhile. I know they used to offer payment plans if you're having trouble paying them, where you could call and pay in I think 3 installments. I think now that they partnered with Affirm, you might be able to check out and do installment pays through Affirm. Jetrick says, is the CDEO from AAPC worth it visa versus the AHEMA CDIP? So 2 different types of credentials. I believe the CDEO is for outpatient coding. CDIP, I believe, is for inpatient coding. I could be incorrect on that, but I believe the CDIP is for more so geared towards inpatient coding, or it might be all-encompassing. I'm not sure. The AAPC has different documentation expert credentials for inpatient versus outpatient because of the different requirements in both of them and the different guidelines and coding regulations and so forth. I don't think one is going to give you any significant advantage versus the other. Question on the TikTok says, what specialty would you recommend for a CPC coder? It depends. I mean, there's so many factors to think about that. Your goals. I mean, I could tell you get into interventional radiology and cardiology coding and it'll pay a lot, but not everyone, I think, has the capability. Everyone has the capability, and not everyone who has the interest, we'll say, to learn that kind of coding. Some people might just not have a stomach for certain types of coding, or even just an interest in them. I do have videos where I break down on my YouTube channel what kind of credential is good, depending on what your career goals are, and talks about some of those. Actually, is there a new one coming out this week, or did I release that one already? I think there's a new one coming out this month. That might be next week's video. No, next week is ebooks. It's coming out soon. I know that. Tanya Taylor says, do you have a video about HCPCS? That book confuses me. So HCPCS is very structurally similar to CPT. A lot of times if you're really good with CPT, HCPCS is pretty intuitive. I do have a video on HCPCS. I believe I just updated it not too long ago. If we go to the Contempo Coding YouTube channel and we type in HCPCS, let's see what comes up. I think I just did, and I'm working on an updated. Let me see if I can flip you around so I can show you. I'm working on an updated, too many times flipping, on an updated ebook video. So HCPCS, yeah, I think the most recent one is called HCPCS Level 2 Coding, Demystifying Services, Supplies, and Modifiers from March of 2024. So that's the video that I would look for. Laura asks, when applying to medical coding jobs, is there any advantage to including ATIT scores? This is the test to apply for a nursing program. I'm not super familiar with them, so I've not heard of anyone else who has included them and whether that's given them any kind of advantage or not. I think that most recruiters, if they're looking at medical coding just specifically and have not had familiarity with nursing, they might not know what that is and the significance that might have. Jocelyn asks, hello, where can I get discount books from? That's kind of a difficult one. And the considerations that we have to have are if our goal is certification prep and we want to get the CPC, there's one book that you have to have a certain edition of. So the CPT book has to be the AMA edition only, current calendar year or one calendar year prior. So don't bother purchasing older books. If you get them for free and you kind of want to look at them to get a flavor for medical coding, that's one thing. But if our goal is certification, we need books from either the current calendar year or one calendar year prior in order to sit for the exams. The CPT book has to be the AMA edition, and that's the only edition that you can have because there's different publishers. So you might find different publishers from Optum and Bucks and AHEMA and AAPC, but that CPT book has to be the AMA edition. HCPCS and ICD-10-CM for the CPC exam, you can have any publisher version that you want. I prefer the ones from the AAPC because I just like the way that they are coordinated and colored. You might find other publishers out there that are cheaper. I have seen some where the pages are very, very thin. They don't have all the anatomical illustrations. But there's not like one particular place I can point you to go, like, here you go, and they're going to have discounted books for you. The medical coding books, sometimes you can find discounts at Optum. I've found, I think, coupon codes for them. But again, keep in mind that CPT book has to be the AMA edition. Val says, I am finished with my course with integrity coding in June. Oops, scrolled up. When do you recommend that I buy the practicing test from the AAPC after I finish in June or before? So what I'm going to say is keep an eye out to your AAPC emails because typically I see about twice a year, they will offer a special where you can purchase your exam voucher and they will include a study guide and they will include practice exams. And that voucher is good for a year. So if you see that coming up next week, I would grab it. And then, since you have a year to take that exam, it's still going to be good for quite a period of time if you're finishing in June. But I would overall, just keep in mind that exam voucher is good for a year. So if you're finishing in June, once you're kind of towards the end, it might be a good idea if you haven't seen that special come up yet to purchase the practice exams. Lysette says, I just passed my CPC exam. What are the next steps? Now you got to start earning continuing education units. And I had another person come in and they were asking about the continuing education units. So as a medical coder or with any certification that you have from the AEPC or HEMA, you have to earn continuing education units, which means you have to stay up to date and you have to prove that you stayed up to date on your knowledge base in this area. So for the CPC, you have or one of any AEPC's credentials, you have to submit 36 CEUs every 2 years. So that could look like going to chapter meetings, it could be going to webinars, it could be in-person events, conferences, finishing the AEPC magazine and doing the quizzes. There's lots of opportunities there. So I would say your next steps would be connect with your local chapter, learn how to get your CEUs and get those submitted onto your CEU tracker, and then get your resume up to date and start searching for a job. Green Baby says, do you have any books to help pass the CPC? I am currently in school and want to take the test. I would recommend the CPC study guide that's officially from the AEPC. The practice exams, if you need some practice exams, the ones from the AEPC, because unfortunately there's some stuff out there right now that they're pushing Facebook ads for and pushing Instagram ads for, and people are basically making AI slop. They are not putting a name behind it, so no one can pay, no one can complain and ask for their money back or ask questions about why the content is so bad. They're just having AI generate all kinds of fake questions that are not conducive to the appropriate studying for the CPC exam, which is why I kind of push towards getting the official stuff. I'm working on getting some stuff out, but I don't have anything out yet. Precious says, good morning. I'm preparing for the CPC exam. How do I remove the A? So the old school way of removing the A from the CPC is to get 2 years experience. There are different things that will each count for 1 year of experience that can fast track you getting that A removed. The first thing is if you had 80 contact hours of a medical coding education course, and you can prove that via a transcript or a certificate, something that proves on there that you had 80 contact hours. If it just says credits or something on that, it won't count. It has to prove that it was 80 contact hours. So if you went through a curriculum through a college or through an online training or an independent instructor through the AEPC, that 80 contact hours can remove 1 year of your apprenticeship status requirement. The other thing that can remove 1 year is if you go through Practicode. Practicode is this module that the AAPC has, and it is redacted medical cases. And they're not multiple choice. They are more fill in the blank style. It's like, they don't tell you like that it's going to be 3 ICD-10 CMs or 4 CPTs or that you need a modifier. You have to figure this all out from scratch, and you have to figure out which diagnoses go to which CPT codes and everything. So it is quite a lot, and it is a paid module that you have to pay for in order to complete that. So once you complete, I can't never remember how many cases it is. It's a lot of cases that you have to go through and code. There's not a lot of structured support for it. But once you go through those cases, that will also count for a year off your apprenticeship status. So you could complete Practicode and you could complete the 80 contact hours, and that will count for both those years, for the 2 full years, and fast track you being able to remove that A. If you want to go through the experience aspect of it, there are templates that the AEPC provides so that your employer can fill those out and get those to them. There's also requirements of who in your company is allowed to submit the proof that you had experience. It can't just be like a coworker. It used to be much more complicated. I think it used to be like a letter from an employer and a letter from a coworker, and you had to submit both of them. But it's a little less complicated, a little more straightforward now. Question says, I worked for a third-party insurance company for 17 years in various positions. Remove the A. If you can get the proof from your prior employers, either through HR or I believe your manager as well, and they have to have that paperwork and you can submit that to the AEPC. What you can do if you want to find the requirements is go into Google and type CPC remove your A, and it will take you, usually the first link there is to the web page that tells you all the instructions on how to remove that apprenticeship status. Let me check on my Instagram crew. Ouija Ali says, hi, want to give CPC exam. Can you share mock papers with me, please? I don't have practice exams that I can give out. You would have to purchase them. The only way that you can obtain mock questions usually for free is not through ethical means. And I don't want to lose my credentials. So are Practicodes and CEUs the same thing, completely new to this field? No. So Practicode is a module of medical coding cases that you can complete in order to fast track removing your apprenticeship status. Continuing education units, or CEUs, are a bi-yearly requirement that you have to complete and submit in order to maintain your credential. So for example, if you sit through an hour-long webinar that's on skin graft coding, you can earn 1 CEU and submit that to the AEPC towards that 36 every 2-year CEU requirement. Hi, I would like to start home health medical coding company. I have 4 years of coding experience. Well, good luck to you. I have been seeing several jobs on Indeed that say that they don't accept the CPCA. Yeah, there are quite a few that don't want to accept the CPCA. The reason for that is we have so many places that people are getting medical coding training from these days, all over the place. I mean, you go on Instagram and there's people that are like, contact me on WhatsApp and I'll get you medical coding training. And it might be some things that they pulled off of the internet from 2016. It's a mixed bag of nuts. Some people are just very good test takers and they can get through and pass the CPC exam. Not everyone is on kind of an equal footing. So what employers do oftentimes, because they're like, you know what, I don't want to know, I don't want to have to figure out for myself if this is someone who had really good quality training and they know what they're doing, or, you know, they just took some 2-day boot camp and they just remembered to retain the information for 2 days and then took the exam. And now everything is like completely melted out of their brain. So the way that they're just like, you know, let's just make it easier on ourselves. We'll just hire someone who's not a CPCA, or we just will only hire people who have 2 years experience. So that's more so a employer thing than anything. But I will say, if you haven't checked out yet, because a lot of people don't know that this website exists, jobs.aepc.com. You can find a lot of positions on there. So they have, the filters on here aren't great. So you can see here there's 7,206 jobs listed. But when we look at like refining by job type, that doesn't total up to 7,206 jobs. So you can try to filter by things that are entry level or so forth, but it's not going to be the best. So I would check jobs.aepc.com. I would also check, if you go to indeed.com or you go to, I'm not sure, LinkedIn or any job search websites right now. A lot of people will say, well, search for CPCA, and then you'll pull up the ones that will hire CPCAs. But then unfortunately, you're also going to pull up the jobs that say no CPCAs, because that's going to come into that search results. What I recommend doing is, when you're searching for things, instead search for ICD-10, because that's one of the coding skill sets. And you're not just going to get jobs that are medical coder or medical coding or medical coder specialist or medical coding coordinator. You're going to get all those coding adjacent jobs where they're like, hey, we want someone who has coding skill sets, that knows these code sets, but maybe the title isn't necessarily medical coder. Well, here's one: aspiring inpatient coder. Yeah. So medical billing specialist, ICD-10, CPT, and claims. So that way you can pull you can cast a wider net and get more jobs through that search that maybe you would not have through other searches. I mean, there's all kinds of tips I can give you as far as like filtering down, like I showed you with the entry-level positions, but depending on how those filters were set up when those employers posted those positions, it doesn't always work as well as we would hope it would work. Jennifer Sky says, have you ever heard of Ultimate Medical Coding Academy? Do you know they're how good or bad they are? I know other details of, other than they exist, and I've had people mention that they went to that. Ashley says, what's that link called? You mean the AAPC job board? That's the jobs.aapc.com. 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 That's the AAPC's job board for all their medical coding positions and stuff, and billing positions, documentation experts, all that. Question says, I'm from Pakistan and I graduated in 5 years. I have more than 2.5 years of experience in medical billing as AR and now joined a company as a medical coder. Does this count as experience for the CPC? So typically what the AEPC counts for experience is anything where you're working with medical codes. So if you are working with ICD-10-CM codes and CPT codes, that typically counts as experience. But again, the AEPC always gets the last say in that. So you can just go onto the website. Like I said, I always go to Google and then just type CPC, remove your A, and you'll find the link there with all the information about removing the apprenticeship status. Ashley asks, what is AR? AR is accounts receivable. Mama Safe Haven says, do you fear that basic coding will be completely taken over by AI? I mean, basic coding has been taken over by EMR for years when you really think about it. I mean, for the past 10 plus years that I've been in medical coding, any provider that works in Epic, if they're seeing a patient, they click the diagnosis codes and they click the procedure codes. That all, at the very least, goes to a coder to audit or to review. I mean, when I was working at a lot of large organizations, most of the stuff went out the door and was either audited, or if we saw some questionable activity from a provider, we might then start looking through all of their codes for a period of time. So I think, I don't think this is any sort of sudden change. I think a lot of basic coding stuff has been done by providers and then checked by coders for a decade. Can you suggest how to start preparation for the CEMC certification, Certified E&M Coder? They do have preparation on the AEPC website. So if you go to, let's see if we can get there. Certifications, view all certifications. I think at this point they do have at least a study guide for all of them, which is helpful, I think, particularly with the E&M credential, because E&M can be so gray, and some people will say, no, this is the way you count this, and you don't count prescription drugs for this, this, and this. And if we're going to test for that certification with the AAPC, we want to know what the AAPC's thoughts are on that. So there might be some differentiation even between regions of certain Medicare contractors will take certain terminology and others won't. So I would say if we go to prepare for the exam, you can, it looks like, get the 2 exam attempts, self-paced instruction course, and study guide for $740, which is actually not too bad. Or you can get the course only, it looks like, $249 for members. But then you still have to purchase the exam voucher. Now, keep in mind, is if you get your CPC and you're eyeing up other certifications, one of the considerations is while you only have to pay one membership fee every year, which means you don't have to pay additionally every year for all of the certifications that you would get, you do have to pay, you do have to get continuing education units for those extra certifications. So you might go from, I think, 36 CEUs to 38, I want to say. Let's take a look. Resources, training and events. Let's see if I can find it on the website. Training and events, continuing education. Maybe it's under the search for CEUs bar. CEU information members. So one certification, you have 36 CEUs every 2 years. 2 certifications, you have 40 CEUs every 2 years. And depending on what specialty you may or may not have, some of those continuing education units have to be specific towards that specialty. So I, for example, have a certification in dermatology. So I have to do so many trainings and earn so many continuing education units that pertain to dermatology and submit those every year. So yeah, 8 must be specialty specific for those specialties that you earned. So if you only have the CPC, you don't have to worry about, are they for, any kind of specialty or for compliance or auditing, but depending on what credentials you're stacking on top of that, you have to get more CEUs, and some of them have to pertain specifically towards that type of credential. Which, speaking of, if you're in need of CEUs, I actually recently got a really, really good deal with Billing Coding Advantage magazine. Check my link tree, my link in bio, if I don't have it in the video description. But Billing Coding Advantage magazine, it's typically $100+ to subscribe to this. I got a special deal just for my viewers for $79. And the great thing about Billing Coding Advantage magazine is they will send you a print magazine every other month. You get the digital magazine, and they include webinars that are worth CEUs for both AAPC and AHEMA credentials. So they have over 30 of those a year. So for $79, you can get 30+ CEUs for the year, like bang them all out. You don't have to sweat or worry, they're all there. There's always free and cheap CEU options. But if you're just like, I just want to pay a little bit and not have to worry about it, check out Billing Coding Advantage magazine, because you can save a whole bunch of money with the link that I have in my bio. And I think I might have it in the video descriptions as well, depending on what platform you're watching on. I already completed my course from AAPC, but they don't have internship or externship. So I know the AAPC has certain job ready programs that they say that they do include an internship or externship. And I actually had someone question about that recently. And what I would like to draw your attention to when it comes to internships and externships, which are just generally hard to find because there's just a lot going on with interns. Sometimes the interns, when you're working for free, I've even had one of my, I work in a co-working studio usually, a co-working office. And one of the businesses there is a travel agency, and she will take on interns from the local college, and people will just not show up. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, that happening. People are just not wanting to come to their internships and externships in the way that they would come to a paid job. And it's making people more reluctant. It's not helping at all, right? For that kind of situation. But what I want to say is when we look at some of the training options that the AAPC has in regards to the internship and externships and their job readiness program, I do want to point out that there is verbiage on here, and let's see if I can find it. Resume writing, 2-year benefits also includes, okay. And it says here, resume booster, 160-hour internship placement with an AAPC employer for qualified graduates. And I think it's important that we know about that terminology of qualified graduates, because if we go here to the internships and we talk about what is the qualified graduate, that basically means that you might not get an internship if you're not a qualified graduate. So how do they define what is a qualified graduate? So a qualified graduate, let's see if they have it here. So you have to meet all the internship placement requirements. You have to complete the CPC or the CPC and CPB course. You have to achieve course completion scores of at least 87%, have good attendance with no more than 2 absences. So these are classes that you would have to be online logged into at certain times. Achieve a passing score on the certification exam. And you have to, so you have to pass the exam. So if you don't get an 87% or you have more than 2 absences, you do not get that internship placement because you're not considered a qualified graduate. So I do just kind of want to point that out to people. Katrina says, I was looking at the Bucks books. I was wondering how accurate they are. I was looking hard at the step-by-step. The step-by-steps are my favorite. I actually just bought I bought the 2026 step-by-step books. And then I also purchased, because I like to show everyone, there's a course included in that. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can buy the Bucks step-by-step medical coding course. I'm sorry, Bucks step-by-step medical coding book. And they include a code that you can go online and basically register for like a course. The course, it's a bare bones course. So there's not like video lectures or anything. It's more like read through all of this stuff. It's like supplemental material, but it's something. In any case, they have an advanced medical coding and auditing book too. And I picked this one up to kind of see what it's like. So that one and this is available in ebook too. But yeah, I love the Buck step-by-step medical coding books for learning medical coding. Okay. I'm going to take a couple more questions. I passed my CPC exam in December. Now my job doesn't want to give me the letter to remove my A. So I would say if you're having problems and maybe you're getting it from your boss, you can also contact Human Resources. I believe though they are also able to validate some of that information for you. But hopefully you can get that if you were working with medical codes and want to get that towards your apprenticeship status removal. Check in on my Instagram people. Okay. Casey says, I don't feel like the practical questions on the AEPC self-paced really help me much. Are you talking about the course program? Because you're talking AEPC self-paced, like the ones that, okay, yeah. So sometimes it depends. I mean, I'm assuming, yeah, self-paced. The modules in the self-paced, again, they're just not my preferred type of learning. If it was me, I would prefer to, okay, we go through the lesson. I'm going to show you an example or two, and now you do an example or two, and then I kind of walk through it versus like, here it is, and here's the rationale, and you didn't get it right, or you did get it right. Hi, Victoria. I'm new CPCA. Any advice for Practicode? Sometimes I feel so smart and on top of it, while other times it's like, oh my God, I'm the worst. I don't belong as a medical coder after all. I mean, that's normal. That's 100% normal. I would say that that's probably the majority of people that are going through Practicode. Some quite more severe. Some are just like, I should never have done this. Much higher weighted percentage of the time. There are support groups. I'm not belonging to any of them, but I think there are Practicode support groups on Facebook. I know some people set up Discords and things. I'm not a big fan of Discord. I'm not a big fan of anything where you can pretend to be anonymous, because I feel that anonymity tends to lead towards people behaving inappropriately, either through just saying things that aren't correct or inappropriate, attacking others, or in some instances, just distributing material that they don't have the appropriate copyrights or licensing rights to distribute. So I stay out of those for those purposes. But yeah, I would check out maybe some of the Facebook groups. And I would also just let you know that that is a very normal feeling. And even in medical coding, as you're working on the field, you will have times where you question yourself completely. I've when I worked as a supervisor of medical coding, I would have coders that would code and code and code and code and code. And they were like, yeah, this is great. I'm doing the best thing. And I'm like, did you know that you're actually supposed to put a modifier on this? And on that day, they would like, it's tough. Like as a medical coder, you assume that everything that you're doing is correct. You're researching things. You're like, I'm doing this. This is great. Like it's 100% correct. And then you find something that's like, oh, actually, maybe you weren't doing it right. And it's like, like, it's very hard not to take that personally because we were naturally just like such perfectionists. We want everything to be so like pinpoint precision correct, right? So yeah, that's that practicode can be tough. Bucks has an intern simulation book. I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I'll thank you guys for tuning in today for the hour. I will be heading out. I will see you guys again next week. I should be live streaming every Monday this entire month. So we're good to go for the month. I will see you guys later. And as always, just keep on coding on.